go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Well, hey, thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. This is going to be an exercise in fun and frivolity, I think, tonight, because I have my southern neighbor, Sarah, with me. She is from the great state of Iowa. She is from down around the south central southeastern wing of the state, if you will. It depends on how you define south central and southeastern. But we met through Unsafe Space with Carter and Carrie and all of the brouhaha that has subsequently happened since, well, basically January or February of this year. And we have remained in contact. Besides mom and dad getting a divorce, the kids have all stayed in touch. Sarah's grinning off screen. But we had, it took me forever to realize that we were even so relatively close geographically, because the Unsafe Space crowd is scattered not just across the United States, but across the globe. Really, there are people from all over who have connected from as far away as Australia to Great Britain and all other points around the globe. And I woke up one day and realized, like, wow, Sarah's just south of me by a few hours. I could just pop down. But there are other Iowa folk and from Unsafe in that area as well. But Sarah started watching my channel. She heard about me. Yes, Kim, I know. Now you know two awesome people from Iowa. Well, are we talking about your wife and Sarah, Kim? But anyway, yeah. So we stayed in contact. She subscribed to the YouTube channel, and little known to me, unbeknownst to me, Sarah started watching and paying attention to my school board meeting content, which I would, should I say, I, of course, was a perfect gentleman and conducted myself with the utmost of decorum and never said anything in the word of anger at all in any of those. But Sarah was watching those, and she made a comment. I can't remember if it was on one of her posts on Facebook or if it was on something that I had posted. And she basically blamed me for her interest in her local school board and her desire to start paying attention, which of course is now turned. Once you start paying attention to school boards, you can't take your eyes off of it. It's like driving by a car accident or a train wreck along the side of the road. It's like you have to stare at it when you see it. So Sarah posted about that, and of course I had to quickly jump on and go, hey, look, somebody is paying attention because of something I said. All one of her. So if you guys haven't yet, since Kim is watching, and him and his wife make my merch. They don't make the coffee, but they do make the merchandise. They make the mugs. They make those really nice shot glasses and the tumblers, and they make sweatshirts, which you will be seeing me wear here very soon. We're getting here in Minnesota, even in Southeast Minnesota, we're getting into sweatshirt weather. I sat on my couch with a sweatshirt on last night, windows closed even. It was pretty chilly in the house. So for those of you that don't understand what winter is like, it is almost here in Minnesota. I went for a 6.5 mile walk today, and I saw numerous woolly bear caterpillars. It is September 5th and the woolly bears are out. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be a rough winter when the woolly bears are out already. So, without any further ado, Sarah, thank you for for being willing to do this. And I don't know how long we're going to be on tonight because this is kind of a one-trick pony. We're really just talking about your school board situation, and I want to tell everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah was my very first Subscribe Star subscriber. She put her name in the hat before Star even approved my account. So she was the very first, and she has remained faithful for all 5 months or whatever it is now. Oh, hold on. There. Oh, now you can talk.
I said I'm still waiting for that exclusive content, though.
You have no. Hey, there's some. There's some
Is there?
spike.
I
Yes.
should go look.
Yeah, and maybe you should go and pay attention. And there's a
I
couple
don't
of videos.
subscribe to anybody else. It's just you. So.
There's a couple of a couple of videos with Spike Cohen on there, and I am still working on. I'm telling you what, that video that I put together with the guy that was going to leave the United States to go fight on the side of Ukraine. That's almost 4 hours worth of video, and I'm trying to break it down into subsections, which I can set to private and then share on the Subscribe Star, and that has proven to be far more difficult than I thought because it only allows a certain number of bytes for a video on Subscribe Star. So I had to be. I either have to carve it into tiny little sections and put it all up at once, or I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, yeah, I'm still working on the exclusive because I am no good at this, and I have a full-time job. Kind of like you. You have a full-time job. You're a stay-at-home mom. You're a home educating mom. Plus, you run a business out of your house,
Yep.
which has also introduced you to a very interesting situation when it comes to tax code and everything for businesses in the great state of Iowa. But you're also now paying attention to your local school board, which, some would say maybe you should anyway. But here you are paying more attention, and you have a special needs child, health-wise, who, if I understand correctly, you have some things through the school that you. No.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
We used to years ago. It's been
Okay.
since it became mandatory enrollment age, which is I think 5. We haven't used the school at all. We just use them for speech therapy for a couple years.
Alrighty. So you started paying attention because you made the mistake of watching some of my school board videos.
I did, and they look so fun. And I think I commented a couple times, like, wow, your school board meetings are so exciting.
No one has ever said that. It looks fun. And I'm like, you did not see the stress shakes coming out of me when I walked away from those things.
Probably. The one where you guys got escorted out, that was fun.
Oh, that, yeah.
That. I'm sure it was.
Well, especially considering it was a former law enforcement agency that I work for. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was watching you guys do your thing and thought, I've always felt like I was involved in our local schools because I researched the school board candidates I voted, and I thought I picked good ones. I don't know that anybody I've ever voted for school board has ever won, but I was doing my part. And then I thought,
cast that vote, right?
Right. I don't tend to pick winners in general. I was watching you guys and thought, well, I should actually go to meetings, which had oddly never occurred to me because we don't use the school, and I don't know a lot of what public schools are like these days because we're just not ever there. But I thought, well, what the heck, I may as well show up and at least be there, and they can get to know my face. And then if something comes up later that I want to talk about, they'll at least be familiar with me. And then I realized that unlike your school boards, ours went all online during COVID.
Oh no! All the
school
boards
get to show up. Oh, did yours too? Because you guys were actually.
Oh yeah, Minnesota. Every single school board was all online. The stuff that you were seeing, last year was post, and we don't say that. We say the COOF, of course.
Shoot, I'm sorry.
Yeah, post the COOF reactions and shutdowns and everything. all of the school boards tended to open back up, uh, and then they re-implemented mask dates. Some of them, obviously, and you saw the one from the one school where we were school board meeting where we were all escorted out.
Yeah.
But
Ours.
so ours were all shut down. Trust me, in Minnesota, all of ours were shut down. It was just last year when they started to open back up and let people back in and have public comment sections. So start back up where there was an opportunity where I was invited to Owatonna, Minnesota, to go and start documenting because they could feel they were having trouble. And my very first meeting there, it was like I walked in. It was like I walked in and was like everything went into fall apart mode, and they completely lost their decorum as a school board, and it just went downhill from there. So yeah. So
Ours
you started
just
So you started
started.
showing up.
Well, I haven't shown up yet. They just started back in person like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe. It hasn't been that
For
long.
school board
And
meetings?
I've been
But
to towns.
but you're in
so.
the largest metro
I'm watching
area.
on. Oh yeah, and this school board. So our governor put out executive order of some sort that you can't do masks in schools anymore, and our school board spent several meetings discussing whether they were going to do it anyway. So they're really into masks, online stuff. I think they would have kept doing online school if they were allowed, but again, they weren't allowed. They would not have gotten paid. So they went back because they had to. But.
So you're in the metro area around, let's say, the Des Moines area.
Yep.
And Des Moines doesn't have just one school district; they have numerous school districts.
Nope, just one school district, just a whole
Just
bunch
one.
of schools.
Okay. And how big
I
is
mean,
the
the
school
suburbs each have their own, but
Right. But the Des Moines school district itself is I don't think people realize this. I point this out to people constantly. Everybody thinks about the Twin Cities in Minnesota and they're like, wow, wow, Minnesota's so much more urbane than Iowa, but by and large, Iowa has on whole larger cities outside of our Twin Cities area than Minnesota does.
probably true. You guys don't have a whole lot of other cities.
Well, we have Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, Mankato, and Duluth, and whatnot. But I mean, Rochester is the third largest metro area in the state, and it's 120,000 people. And there are several state cities in Iowa that are 120 plus. So the Des Moines area is actually really,
I don't know how big Des Moines is, but it's pretty big.
Yeah, Des Moines is actually a really rather large metro area, and people don't really picture that for Iowa until you get over towards, they either imagine like the Quad Cities area or the Council Bluffs area, which of course is just nothing more than eastern Omaha. But Des Moines is actually pretty large, and it is a pretty strong leftist stronghold. Which tends to happen anytime you get close to a state's tall buildings. But you've run across some things. I mean, besides their adherence to and their love for the mass state over the COOF stuff, in your school district, you've run into some social justice-y, well, actually, flat out wokeism. That's and it's gotten to the point where it's got you kind of fighting men, not in a physical way, but like even as a homeschooling parent, you're over here going, people, you need to be paying attention because you sat down and wrote a speech.
It's kind of shocking. Yeah, they've hired a consultant to help them be more woke. I'm honestly not sure what his title is, but like he sits on school board meetings and helps them do things, and they all end up being way more woke.
Does he actually like sit at the school board table, or is he sit in the audience?
Yeah, I don't know because they all I'm not even sure if he's there physically. I think he videos it because I'm just watching on YouTube until tomorrow. But his background's different from the others, so
So tomorrow's
I
the
don't
big
think
night.
he's there physically. Yeah, yeah. But he sits in on the meetings, and he's he's an advisor to help them be have equity. He's their equity guy. So yeah, he's helps them. He's helped them make these. They call them guardrails, and that phrase drives me insane. They keep talking about wanting to meet the guardrails, and I keep saying, if you met the guardrail, you're doing it wrong. Like on a
You've already
highway,
got
if you
off
meet
the
the
road.
guardrail, you're that's bad. I feel like
You're
they should
already
call
off
them
the road if
goals.
you're hitting the guardrail.
I don't understand it. I mean, like, if you're going to go with guardrails, we need to say that we need to stay between them. But they only set goals, and they call them guardrails. But the goals are all for being equitable, for
And they use equity very, very specifically. They're not
do
talking
they
about
say the word
equality.
equity?
They don't.
They don't say the word equity in this thing that I'm skimming, but like students of color as a percentage of students enrolled in gifted and talented program will increase from 46% to 50%. Not
So they're
shy
just
of
saying
it.
so they're just saying it will increase. There's no conversation as to whether or not there's a. They're just going to make sure it does increase.
Yes, yes, yes. And they, for some reason, want to reduce the number of particularly Black kids who have an IEP, which that's a whole thing with me, with my kid who would have an IEP where he were in public school. Like, why would you take those away? And they say it's because their teachers discriminate against kids with IEPs. Well, clearly the solution is to just get rid of them.
And for people who don't know,
it's letting the tail wag the dog.
An IEP is an
That's
individual education plan. In other words, there are kids who need particular approaches to how they learn, and the school creates this through the parents and through advising and whatnot. They create this plan for the student, for the child, to help them succeed, which ultimately is also more in line with diversity, equity, and inclusion, which isn't necessarily all bad, but they don't look at root causes. They just look at the person having the struggle and then say, oh, they need an IEP. And now they want to eliminate IEP for a certain percentage of minority students, in particular the Black minority students, because it causes discrimination.
evidently. That's what they've said in their meetings.
So they're going to hinder the educational progress of the student by taking them off of an IEP.
Yes. Yes. But it's equity. I don't know. That might be the next thing I email the school board about, but based on my current experience, they won't bother responding.
So you got to be in your bonnet, and it's probably apropos considering I've never seen you without a head covering. So
it sucked to get a bee in there.
So you've got a little bit of a bee in your bonnet about a particular issue, and that's what you're going to be speaking on for the very first time.
Yeah.
So people understand Sarah is not a media personality. She's not a public speaker. As you can tell, her studio is incredibly professional.
I'm sorry, I have a bad camera. It's a 10-year-old laptop.
And well, hey, you're for being unprepared. You're doing better than I was going into being prepared. I'm like everything. The only reason my quality is any good at all is because people have been generous to me. So, she's not a public speaker. She's never done this before. So she's written a speech that she is going to present to the school board in her school district there in Iowa tomorrow, because you've been concerned about some of this social justice stuff that's happening, and but you've also written emails kind of asking for clarification about certain phrases and terminology that have been used, and you're not getting any clarification.
Correct. And that's really basically what I'm going to talk to them about tomorrow is, do you want me to just tell the whole?
Yeah, go
thing.
give the backstory. I mean, you
So
don't have to like go into it.
it kind of started, and then I got all distracted. But so the board has these guardrails that they evidently give to the superintendent, and then the superintendent makes what they call interim guardrails because we just can't use that word enough. And then they had a meeting where the superintendent, he's an interim superintendent because the old one quit a year early and got a huge bonus. They had a meeting with the board where he's presenting sort of his interim, I'm going to call them what they are, which is goals. And then there was time for the board to ask questions. So he, as one of his goals, we're not allowed to see the actual goals, by the way, but in presenting this to the board, no, I've not been able to get a hold of the superintendent's guardrails. The board guardrails for the superintendent, they go over at meetings enough that I know what they are, but his goals aren't. They won't give them to me, or they haven't so far. We'll see. But he says, lastly, we talked about the comparison data with white ethnocentric behavior expectations for students. And then blah, 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 he goes on and says something about with the definition that we have for that, we decided to stick with the white ethnocentric behavior expectations to compare them to a data set they have for Black males. And I said, gosh, white ethnocentric behavior expectations. It's not a phrase with which I am familiar. I wonder what that means and why it's so important that it's actually apparently in the superintendent's goals for himself. So they were looking at some sort of behavior thing and trying to address the idea that Black students in our district are getting in trouble for behavior more often than white students. And so we're comparing them with a data set of white ethnocentric behavior expectations. So I emailed, the board's got a just generic email address. And I said, hey, so at this recent work session, I heard the interim superintendent using the phrase white ethnocentric behavior expectations. And I'm not familiar with that phrase. What, do you have a definition for that? What does that mean? And I've learned since then that when you email that, it actually goes out, I think, to all of the board members, and then somebody just chooses to reply. So the person who replies says, I wasn't present for this session. Okay, I'm really glad that you chose to be the one to respond.
Well,
So
they forwarded that one to her
Yeah.
because she wasn't there, so that she could say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. She sent me on to the chair of the board, who said, oh, I'll need to go back and review the video. I was super busy with Juneteenth that week, so I'm sure I was at the meeting, but I just need a reminder. So she went back and looked at the video and then replied to me and gave me the minute marks of each time that phrase was used, which I hadn't realized it was used 4 times. But then she copied in the interim superintendent. This is my favorite. We do not define behavior based on race. I use the words white behavior or white student behavior as shorthand to describe the comparison group of white students in the context of a behavior analysis. I apologize if my words were confusing. I sincerely, he kind of repeats himself, I will be more clear with my words going forward.
Well, they clearly do.
Well, I don't know what that means. I said,
But they clearly do use ethnicity as a behavior describer when they're saying white ethnocentric behavior issues. Well,
yeah. So I
could you imagine if they had said Afrocentric behavior issues? So are they implying that Black students in the school district are getting in trouble because they're not behaving like white kids, or that white kids don't get in trouble because they behave like white kids? I don't
know, but I've been listening to the school board talk about behavior and fighting in the school for a year now, and I have yet to see them discuss any statistics on it. Well,
that's like
how Black kids are acting versus how white kids are acting. You could set up a scale and have teachers, like, you could give just straight up definitions for, like, level 1 behavior is X, level 2 behavior is Y. When I send a kid in for a referral, this is what they were doing, but they're not doing that. They're just, more Black kids are getting behavior referrals than white kids, so there must be a problem. And maybe there is, I don't know.
And they're very,
they don't either.
there very well could be a problem where black kids might be getting
Totally could
singled
be.
out
It completely could be racism.
unfairly. It, but it could also be that maybe in particular schools there is a higher percentage of black students, and that higher percentage of black students is getting in trouble for behavior that is mismanaged or not managed well. And so to jump to, oh, no wonder you're frustrated, because that's kind of, hearing you talk about it helps me understand it more outside of just reading about it on Facebook. Um, that to me is indicative of they're getting in trouble because they're not white, which is just racist. No matter which way you look at it, it's just absolutely racist. Either
And that would be
either
a big
they're
problem.
saying,
I agree.
yeah, it's a big problem. Either they're saying that teachers are targeting the students simply because they're black, or that black kids don't know how to behave, or white kids get a pass because they're white and get away with the same kind of behavior that black students get chastised for. That's racist. The superintendent, interim or not, has a racist, and I hate that term racist, but that's the term everybody uses. The superintendent has a racist ideology. Period. Absolutely, period. It's an absolutely racist ideology. Instead of looking at the ethnicity of the student for the trouble that they're getting into, we need to just be looking at the trouble and addressing the trouble. And you don't get a
Yes.
pass because you happen to be in a particular ethnicity. If you do X, this is the consequences for X. If you do Y, these are the consequences for Y. And if you go really bad and you do Z, then these are the consequences for Z. Regardless of your socioeconomic, ethnic background, these are the consequences, period. To me, what I hear them saying is we're going to start addressing these things based on ethnicity, and we're going to give a pass to certain ethnicities because they can't help it, which is racist.
So racist. Yeah,
It's
it's like
racist.
they've identified a problem. I believe them that more black kids than white kids get behavior referrals. I don't know why they'd make that up, but they identified the problem, and so the solution is to just have fewer black kids referred for behavior, or to have more white kids referred, as opposed to looking at, are they getting? It's just like when you look at crime statistics. Are they getting in trouble unjustly or unfairly, or are there actual discrepancies in behavior? I don't know. But I also still don't know what white ethnocentric behavior expectations are, which is really all I wanted to know. And to loop it back
Which
into the IEP thing that came up, how many of these black kids have behavior-based IEPs, which are a legal contract with the government, and the teachers aren't following them, and that's why they're getting referrals? I don't know. I would be willing to bet several.
uh,
It's
so
very frustrating. But
so
all I'm going to talk to them about tomorrow is that I asked you this question about this. It wasn't even actually a gotcha. Like, I wasn't trying to pounce on them for anything. I mean, I might have, depending on what the definition was, but I really just wanted to know what the definition was. And clearly they know. There was time after he said it for the school board members to ask clarifying questions if they had any, and nobody had any. So they sat there, they listened to him use the phrase white ethnocentric behavior expectations 4 times. They had time for questions. Nobody said, hey, what does that mean? So I assumed that everybody who was present knew what it meant, or they're too afraid to ask, which is also a problem. But I don't know why it
well,
switched. This was July when I messaged them, and here we are, September. Still nobody can answer me. There's been like 12 emails.
yeah, almost winter.
Could just answer.
It's almost winter.
It feels like they just don't want to say. I don't think for a second they don't know.
They
And
do know.
They
There's
just
no
don't
way.
want to
There's no way
say,
that they have
because
a.
if they have to define it, then they know what's going to happen next, which is
There's no way that they have a diversity, equity, and inclusion czar that they've hired to be their advisor, and they don't know what the answer to that is. There's no way they don't know.
which is why I really want to see what this guy's guardrails are, because I want to see if that phrase is in there. It probably isn't anymore if it was, but
And here's the deal, and I we won't. I don't want to beat this to death, but because one, I know you're you're a mom. What are you drinking?
It's elderflower soda.
If anybody doesn't know, she's a hippie.
It's really good though.
She's also started frying plantains, and by plantain I don't mean the stuff you buy. I don't mean the
No,
stuff
the
that
wheat.
you buy at the store next to the bananas that look like a banana, but it's not. She literally has started picking plantain. Describe plantain for people who may not know.
It's so weird. It grows everywhere. I mean, everybody can walk outside and find some. It's like
It's got a
flat, and
stalk.
it has
It's
these
got a
stalks that come up.
yeah.
It's everhere.
And
It's
so
probably
you've
more
started
common than
harvesting it out of your
dandelions.
yard and feeding it
Yeah.
to your family.
It's just been me and I think one kid so far who I've talked into eating it. It's pretty good. I overcooked it the first time. The leaves are good too. You can eat the leaves. They're kind of bitter, but you can cook them like any greens.
I'm gonna try and find here. Let me see. Yeah, so people know since we're on it.
There's almost no way everybody doesn't have some in their yard.
No, they may not. I guarantee you, everybody. Well, you won't find it in my yard, but
Well, maybe not people who spray.
I spray key parts, just my grass. I don't spray anything else.
If I killed the weeds in my yard, there would be just dirt.
There, folks, that's plantain. So if you see these in your yard, and these little things right here, the stalks, well, the leaves too, but the stalks are actually edible. She fries them and feeds them to her children, and then her children turn her into Health and Human Services. So
Thinking I might start selling it on. Is that Etsy? I didn't know anybody would buy plantain seeds. They're like.
you're like, why would you need to buy it? It grows very readily in my yard. Just. What's it taste like?
The seeds when you the seed stalks when you cook them, they taste a lot like asparagus or burnt asparagus, depending on if you're me and you cook them. I tend to burn
And you burn it. Ugh. Well, thanks. I'm not going to try it. So
I've got some seeds stored up to try and grind into flour and make some bread with too.
So anyway, to the real reason why you're here, not to pick on your hippie tendencies.
Sorry.
She is a conservative hippie. Anyway, you've decided to get involved, and a lot of people out there would say, well, you're home educating. Why do you care? And here's what I tell people all the time. Home educating people, families, whatever, they need to be as involved as anybody else because it's your tax dollars going to the school district. So whether or not your kids are in the school district, your money is impacting what's being taught there. So oftentimes your money is actually being used to indoctrinate and inculcate these students, unsuspecting sometimes, with a mindset and an ideology that is counterintuitive to everything you would want them to be taught. And that's not to say that, first of all, I think the best thing that we could do is start by eliminating the Department of Education at the federal level and working our way down, by the way. But anyway, that aside, we could really take a look at what's going on at the local school districts and say, one of the reasons so many people are choosing to home educate is because they're really not comfortable with what's being mandated at the government schools at every level. And people can get worked up about some of the particular aspects of the agendas that happen. Josh Slocum on Disaffected talks about this a lot with some of the trans issues that get brought into the schools and whatnot. But everybody who's got tax dollars going into the school district, which is pretty much anybody who pays any kind of property tax at all, should be paying attention. They need to be paying attention to this. And I remind people constantly, the single greatest authority when it comes to taxes in your life is your local school district. They have more power of taxation over you than just about anybody else does. They may not have the 87,000 armed agents that the IRS has now, well, or they're working on. Though those are some interesting videos, by the way, of their orientation and training. But just if you haven't seen them, check it out. But the school district, by and large, has some of the most powerful means of taxing you, and so it's in your best interest to go and get involved and to bring your friends and other like-minded individuals, anarchist hippies or whatnot. Board gamer mom called you an anarchist hippie. I'm assuming board gamer mom must be a friend of yours.
She's welcome to come with me more too.
Oh, she's a local friend of yours.
I can't see the chat for some reason. Yeah, I know she lives here.
That is odd that
Yeah,
you can't
that's
see it.
yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. Sorry. Oh, they're now popped up.
Well, I'm just putting them up there. She said the Des Moines Public Schools is 12,000 a student. You know what I could have done with 12,000 a year?
Yeah. Oh, we might get
Considering
school choice this next session though. I
in
really
all
think there's
places.
hope for us in Iowa. I mean, obviously we already technically have school choice, but like we might get some of our back.
Right.
Which homeschoolers are very divided on, but I'm not going to turn down money.
So you chose to get involved because, quite frankly, the First Amendment says that you have a right to a redress of grievances, and you found some things to be grieved about.
So much to be grieved about, but this seemed like a really innocuous starting point. So,
but isn't it funny that go ahead. Well, isn't it funny that this innocuous? We're doing it. We would make great co-hosts, wouldn't we? This allegedly innocuous situation has actually probably proven to be less innocuous than you think, because you're not getting answers. And quite frankly, you're probably not getting answers because they don't know how to answer, because they're probably not used to getting asked questions. Which, to me, is emblematic. It's emblematic of a far more problematic situation, which is nobody ever asks any questions.
Yeah, most of the people who come and speak at school board meetings are yelling at them because they're not woke enough, which is funny to me. I'm not sure that you can get a whole lot
Wait a
more
minute.
woke.
So people actually come in and say that to them, that they're not woke enough?
I mean, they don't use that word, but yeah, that's the general thrust of it. One of their other goals is to have a more ethnically diverse teaching set of teachers, but they keep hiring white teachers because that's just who's qualified, I guess. And yeah, people keep coming and yelling at them about that. And they're a little bit in their defense, like, I can't hire people who they don't want to move here. I can only hire the people who want the job. So,
did you hear what, and this is probably coming to your metro area sometime soon. The Minneapolis School District Teachers Union agreed to a contract that said that white teachers will be laid off first, even if they've been if they have tenure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, surprised we haven't done that yet. Probably our school board saw that and was like, "Ooh, ideas for next time."
So, do you have anybody going with you tomorrow?
As far as I know, no, unless working or mom.
How's the hubby feel about this?
I
not to put you on blast,
I kind of did a bad. No, it's fine. And I just signed up to talk and put on my wallet. Fine, then I'm going to go talk at the school board meeting. I go march into his office and see what's here. He says, "So, gonna go talk at the school board meeting?" Oh, like, oh, well, yeah. Is that okay with you? And he had some reservations, but ultimately he's fine with it. He was
Well,
just
it's not
concerned
like it's
because
not
we
like
have
they
to give
can.
our full name and address, and
No,
I
you do
just
not.
doesn't
By the
want.
way, you do not. You do. So you do not need to tell them your address when you're speaking. And if they try to
Just
force
not
that,
say something, skip over it.
just go, "Hey, I'm Sarah, and I live in the school district," and that's really even more than they need to have. You have a right to redress of
They should.
grievances, and no one has a right to force you to divulge your address in a public comment section at all, period. The reason that school boards do that is to intimidate people so that if they say something that the school board itself or somebody who supports the school board doesn't like, they've now got your address.
I could always look up the address of the local high school and say that.
You could, but
See
don't
if they
feel
catch
that
on.
you do not need to give your address when you're speaking. I I doubt that they're going to read your address. They'll probably just call you up if there's nobody, who knows how many people will be there to speak.
Everybody who speaks starts out with their name and their address, like they say.
Yeah, do not give your address. I would just you're not required to do that. Just say, "My name is Sarah. I'm a taxpayer in the school district and I choose not to give my full address." And this is the other thing. So if you can bring somebody with you, bring someone with you, but make sure that you have your camera with you on your cell phone. I imagine you have a decent enough camera on your
It's
cell
probably
phone.
there in this one.
Yeah, next time we do it, so like, we will do an update to this.
Do it on my phone.
We'll do it on your phone. I'm being a smart aleck. Do not just, and if they say, well, if you're not going to give your address, you're not going to be allowed to speak, then, they'll go viral. We'll make sure they go
viral.
Huh?
I got a business to run. I'm not looking to go viral.
No, the school board will go viral.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the thing that you gotta.
I want to get escorted out by the bailiff.
You watched the Sherburne County stuff.
I did. Well, that's why I tried to nail down, so I'm not supposed to say their names, but there's only one superintendent. If I say superintendent, I'm not saying his name, but it's not like people don't know who I'm talking about. So we'll see how that goes.
Here, well, Sarah, I don't mean to. I mean, yeah, you have a business to run, and I know how important it is to you. Don't get me wrong, but by the way,
I'd love to get arrested with you.
sounds like
I'm in jail.
Sounds like Board Gamer Mom just committed to going along. I guess I can say this to some degree because I've had skin in the game on numerous occasions, as you know. Well, you know Jennifer from what's her Twitter handle? Problematic Seamstress.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. She did, look at what they did to her over, trumped up stuff because she had a pattern for her seamstress stuff that was literally not racist, but it looked too Southern. And she's managed to survive. And so, I mean, I don't want to, encourage you to take undue risk, but I would say that the reason why they get away with the things they get away with, quite frankly, is because people are, I can't afford to take the risk, and they're counting on that. And so my encouragement to you is that you get ahead of it. And in the sense of, I've been telling a gal that I interviewed here a couple of weeks ago had on for Monday Night Musings, and then we also had her on for her and her campaign manager on for something else that they were fighting with a guy who was claiming to live in the Senate district and wasn't, and clearly isn't, even though they lost that case. everybody's reached out to him and said it's so clear that he's not been living in the district. We're voting for you. So them losing has helped. But I've told him in a lot of these situations, if you got to get out ahead of these things and say, yeah, there's a risk to it. But boy, any retaliation, anything that they put out where if somebody comes after you these days, um, I listen to Tom Woods quite a bit, and one of the things that Tom likes to do um, with his haters, he likes to monetize his haters and his attackers. So he'll do a discount on merchandise or something, like, so and so said such and such, so we're going to do a 5% or 10% discount for wokies or whatever, enter code wokie or whatever, and that that kind of stuff, it confounds them because they literally don't know how to respond to it, because their whole point
Mhm.
is to try and silence you preemptively, which is why they want you to read your address. It has a chilling effect on anything that you will say, because now you will not say anything that they might deem to be negative or inappropriate, because they have your address and it's out there in the public for them to see. And so you get ahead of that by just being honest and say, I live in the school district. You have my written address. I am not giving this out because this goes out on the public media, public sphere through YouTube broadcast or whatever, and I don't want to read it. And if they insist, then you have a different conversation. And then you start pulling people. You'll start pulling the attention of people, because that's what happened in Owatonna. That's what happened in Albert Lea. That's what happened in Dover Yoda. When they started to really push these issues in these different school districts up here, and we started highlighting that, it brought in the silent majority, which said, no, you're not going to treat people that way anymore. And we had, in the case of Owatonna, we had a standing room only situation at one meeting where they literally were trying to remove people and telling people, you have to leave or we're going to start removing you. And I just stood up and looked at everybody and said, no one leave. And everybody said, we're not leaving. And they eventually won that fight, because they did then change the venue after being asked for weeks and weeks and weeks. And, quite frankly, that's sometimes, I'm trying to encourage you, not chastise you. That sometimes is what it takes, is to get that base awakened, not woke, but awakened, to say, what the hell is going on in our school district that they're shutting down this little mom, like literally. I don't know. My thoughts. So
No, and I'm hoping that just by going, I mean, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. They're not gonna suddenly decide, oh well, she showed up in a meeting, we better define that phrase here and fix it. But I'm hoping just by going, and maybe other people also watch or go to the school board meetings who aren't 100% on board with everything, see somebody standing up and saying something. Granted, something extremely mild, but I don't know. I hope to encourage other people also, just by being there and saying something.
but
Really, all you see is
that's how you
people
start.
on board.
That's how you start. And I know you'll get this. You find that thread,
Yep.
and you start pulling that thread. And I mean, you can, the old Weezer song, if you want to unravel my sweater, just pull a string as you walk away, right? Well, that's really kind of, you want to unravel whatever they're trying to knit together or sew together or whatever. You grab that string and you walk away. And excuse me, I think that's what's so impressive about what you've decided to do. Is it's probably the first time in a very long time that somebody who's not one of the wokies in that school district, who's going to come in and demand even more DEI and social emotional, what is it? Social emotional learning, SEL, who's not coming and demanding more, then you're going to come in and as a person who's on that other side, that hippie anarchist, and say, no, why is this happening here? And this is, just so you know, this is why so many people in Iowa's got a massive amount of people who home educate, because they don't, you know, Iowa used to be the leading state for education.
Oh, I know.
Used to be the leading state. When
Now we're
I
not.
grew up down there, we were like, that was the thing. Like, we were the leading state. I mean,
Yep.
everybody took the Iowa basic skills
I would
test
bragged about it all over.
all the
Yeah.
time. Can't do that anymore, because it's gone so far off to the left that no one's actually learning anything anymore. And
Although the absolute, I'm sorry,
no,
let me interrupt you. The absolute funnest part of watching the school board meetings has been them talking about their budget and how they're just not going to have as much money now because so many parents have pulled their kids out since the coup started. And they just whine about it so much. And every time they bring it up, it's like, yay, parents. But then those parents are pulling their kids out and walking away and not staying involved and not caring about what's going on. So
and you say that
there's a
with a
downside
little,
too.
you say that with a little compunction of guilt, because you haven't been involved.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And that there
I
again,
mean,
on an
I've got a kid
accusation,
who graduated this year, so that's 12 years of me having a kid in school, homeschool, but of not really caring what they were doing in the schools. But I don't think they were. I don't know. I don't think they were this bad, but they probably were. I don't think they were this obviously bad.
Well, and it's kind of like, and I said the thing about the COOF that has been great is it's accelerated the kind of the traditional base, the trad base, had their eyes open at an accelerated rate, and having their kids sitting at home and having to be home with their kids while their kids were sitting at home on a laptop or a pad watching a teacher and seeing some of the things that were being said. It's almost like there was a disconnect with the school districts. Like, the parents aren't going to notice, and by and large, it's probably a pretty safe assumption when your parents aren't showing up at the school to monitor what's going on. But the fact that you're now forced these parents to stay home because they're not essential, or they can work from home, but now the kids are sitting there and they walk by and they hear something that's just completely cattywampus. Yeah, now they're going to really start paying attention. And so now normal, normie cons, are, the kind of the neocon types, or the, like I said, I coined the phrase normie cons, but these normie cons who really don't pay attention, assume that the state run school must be a good thing because, well, gosh darn it, I grew up with that.
Yep. So when I was in school.
Well, and even, you go back as far as, I'm a lot older than Sarah, so, but you go back as far as when I
You're
graduated.
not older than me.
I am that much older than you. When did you graduate?
In high school?
Yeah.
94.
Yeah, I'm a lot older than you. But I appreciate you trying to.
Hey, I like being young. Actually, the old lady.
I could have babysat you. But even when we were in school there, how's that? Does it make you feel better? Even when we were in school, things weren't that great, but they definitely aren't what they are now. And parents are hearing this and going, whoa, full stop, wait a minute. And it's getting them to pay attention. Your friend Board Gamer Mom. And by the way, Board Gamer Mom, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you really need to. If you're going to watch and make this many comments and not even a single super chat, seriously, not
You probably actually like TC.
Well, she better, because she's watching now, and I got all these people commenting in my thread, and I'm not getting a single super chat for this. This is ridiculous, people. Don't you know, us YouTube podcasters, we make our money off of this. I don't even have a full-time job. I just have to put. I'm kidding. That's not true. I do, trust me, I'm not living off of my YouTube revenue. It's
Subscribe star. That pays
yeah. Well, and that actually helps. Like I said, it's one cup of coffee or whatever it is you made there, which is probably cheaper than coffee.
It actually came from a can, believe it or not. I didn't make it. Somebody makes elderflower soda and sells it.
Interesting. Oh, hey. Tomsky says I'm late, which is maybe early for him. Um, I like to see people like you getting involved because it says to me that others will pay attention. If the homeschool mom or the homeschool dad or the homeschool family can notice these things and pay attention, then maybe, just maybe, we can have an impact on the people whose kids are in the school district. And when that starts to happen, they will pull their kids out, or they're going to affect change of some sort. Ideally, from my perspective, all the government schools would shut down. All that money that gets taken out of your pocket to pay for all of that would stay in your pocket. And now you might even be able to afford, if you don't feel qualified to home educate, you might be able to afford to send your kids to a private school, because there'd be a lot more private schools, which would create more competition.
It just kills me that people don't understand that. Well, there aren't enough private schools for everyone. Well, there would be.
Yeah, there would be,
People
and
had
they'd be
money for
cheaper.
it. It's called
And they'd
supply
be
and demand.
cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, with Arizona getting the school choice thing passed, I'm willing to bet that within the next couple of years, there's a ton of private schools whose tuition is exactly whatever it is that parents get, because there'll be a demand for it.
Precisely, and they'll do a damn good job.
And ideally, there will be private schools that would pop up that would do a better job with special needs kids, because a lot of private schools aren't
Because
that
they would
great with them, but they
because they
don't
would
have to be.
concentrate on, yeah.
Yeah.
They would concentrate on special needs. Oh,
Yep.
you could have a school that's completely dedicated to kids on the autism spectrum. Period. You don't get that
Yes,
with the
that too.
public schools. The public schools don't do that. They take all those special needs kids and they all go in one class.
Or they just stay in their regular class and have a terrible
And
time.
and flounder,
Yep.
so to speak. So since this isn't something that you do on a regular basis, and you've got a family, I will not we will not run this much longer. So, because I'm sure you probably have to get your kids off to bed at some point, because, well, you homeschool families, your kids stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning and they don't get dressed at all during the
Well,
day
one
in
of
the
mine
house.
does, but we have such a late, weird schedule that it always is awkward talking to people who aren't homeschoolers.
I
Could we make that appointment 10 o'clock? Because we're not usually up and ready to go at 8. Don't you have to be up for school? No, maybe not.
Well, we used to run into that at we go grocery shopping in the middle of the week, and the kids would be with you, and they're, oh, no school today. Oh no, we're done already, or we got it done, or oh no, we take this day off. And they're like, oh, for you got a medical appointment? No, we just take the day off. It's like, now people are starting to, it starts to register with people a little bit more now. Oh, you must be homeschoolers. It used to be, oh, you're homeschoolers. Like it's a contagion.
See,
So now people,
my RBF is such that I've really never gotten any of that from anybody. People don't. Nobody's ever said, "Oh,
you are
no
intimidating.
I look mean all the time." So.
Oh
I
yeah,
look super friendly now, I think, but when I'm out in public, I'm kind of scoutly. People don't talk to me. I have some sort of an aura, which is, I'm happy.
Oh, it's funny because I get told that too. You always look so unapproachable, and I'm like the biggest teddy bear, unless I'm at a public meeting of some sort.
Unless I'm in public, then.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I went to can't remember what school district was it. Farmington School District last fall, summer, and on invite, they're like, "Hey, we could really use your help up here." And I walked in and didn't know what to expect. I knew there was going to be some wokies and some non-wokies, and there was going to be some back and forth, and it kind of got Tomsky says teddy bear with hidden teeth. Yes, that's me. And so I went in, like I said, not expecting much, and somebody had said, "Oh, this is the public comment section part of the meeting is pretty much over." And so I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and record everything for this meeting, which I learned the hard way after that. I went out with my camera and everything, and all of a sudden there's an uproar during the regular portion of the meeting after the public comment section, and here's a school board member going at it with a member of the community. And I went in and started to record, and I caught that part, and that's when I had the chief of police was like, "You're leaving, like right now." And that school board member, later I put that video out, and later on that school board member reached out to me, and she's like, "I was so excited when I saw you come in because I watched your stuff. I'm on your side." But I'm and we have now become friends. But it was so funny that here's the situation where she's, in the eyes of the public, she's the impetus for the conflict. And it that video went, for my channel, went pretty gangbusters. But it's like, I walk into these meetings now in a lot of areas, and I'm known. People know me. In fact, the Owatonna situation was pretty funny because they the school board chair and the superintendent were trying to figure out a way to keep me from being allowed to enter, something along the lines of, well, he's not from here, or he's not in the school district, or whatever. And that's where the brief little stint of we're all TC, people buying T-shirts to wear to the school board meetings came from. So I want to know how it goes, and I do encourage you tomorrow when you do show up that you start recording before you go up to speak, and make sure that you're paying close attention to how other people are being handled, and whatnot. And you have to do you. Um, I know that it can be nerve wracking the first time you go to speak at a board meeting like this, but be willing to stand your ground. I would tell you, like, once again, you do not have to share your personal address. You can come up with an address, like you said, give the school district address or something. They won't even notice.
No, I mean, they'll have my address already, but I don't know that. Honestly, during the public comment section, it all looks like they're just releases me anyway. So
Because
see,
every single school board in the
so,
United
something to
States
say.
has the exact same policy. We are not going to react, answer questions, or
Yes.
respond.
Which I get to a certain extent. It's not on the agenda, and people who are interested in that topic leave this out. But yeah.
Well,
I would
I
like
just
there to be
wanted,
some back and forth.
you keep going, there will be eventually.
Yeah, now that they're back in person, I'm just gonna start.
Well, look at what the two Iowa Mama Bears managed to accomplish in their school district. I think, are they from Ankeny? I don't know, but they managed to get their school board's mind changed on a lot of stuff, and they're well hated now. But yeah, like I said, I wouldn't give your address. I would just say, I'm from the school district. You have my address. I don't want to share it publicly. And here's my point. Make sure you're shooting video of it, just because you want a record of how you handle things. And I want you to know that I am actually impressed and inspired by the fact that you are taking note and taking action. And I think this is a step towards getting other people in your area, your metro area, really, to start paying attention. And it's not going to be easy, but the first time never is. But the next time, and I've got a funny feeling there will be a next time, because you're not going to get the answers that you're looking for tomorrow either.
No, probably not.
Well, thank you for doing this tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, when we do your follow-up, we'll have to get you in a room with better lighting and just your cell phone.
Probably just my cell phone would make a huge difference. I mean, I have really good lighting down here, but it's extremely bright. So then I have the lights on, and it's just all white.
I trust me, I understand washout, because I had that problem for a long time too. So, well, Sarah, I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for being one of my first, being my very first Subscribe Star person.
I was impressed with myself. I remembered to go back and do it.
Well, you put your name in there before everybody else did, so I think you were kind of, So I keep bringing it up. So if anybody doesn't know, I have a Subscribe Star, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast. So, Sarah, you
Evidently,
get out
there's
of
just
here.
a ton of exclusive content out there too.
You
So
shut your mouth about that, smart aleck.
I'll go look at it. You said there was some. I'll go look.
There's a couple of exclusive Spike videos on there, and
Which is kind of exactly what I want to see. So I'll check.
that,
I didn't
yeah.
like Spike until I saw him on your channel. So
You didn't like him until you saw him? Did you even know who he was?
I voted for him for vice president.
But you
Yeah.
didn't like him?
No, it was more of a. I didn't
You
like
were
either
a
of them. It was just a
You were just voting Libertarian in a protest
voting in
vote.
principle. Kind of, and the Libertarian Party of Iowa was trying to maintain major party status, so
Trying to maintain what?
failed. Major party status. They failed. We lost it. We had it and lost
Yeah.
it.
That
Yeah, I
was
wasn't a big fan, but I'd never really heard him talk a whole lot. So.
he's a sharp guy.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because Dave Smith looks like he's kind of the apparent walk away with for the nomination for the Libertarian Party presidency coming in 2024. But I'm actually going to have a guest on for two different spots, one for my Defining Good Cops and one for the Libertarian Lowdown, who has also got his hat in the ring for the Libertarian Party nomination. And I'm interviewing him on Thursday night. We're doing that one as a recording because it's going to be a little longer because we're doing it in two parts. And he's running for president for the Libertarian Party, and he was a recommendation to me directly from Spike and Spike's media guy because of his knowledge as a economist. And I believe he was in one of the White House administrations. He was an economist and he's a cop. And for the Defining Good Cop, we're going to be talking about qualified immunity, and we're going to be talking about why qualified immunity needs to be removed and what needs to be put in place. And so we're going to record that on Thursday night. So that'll be right up your alley when that comes out.
Sounds interesting.
Well, you get out of here. I'm going to do a
Alrighty.
close, and
Yep.
I'm going
All
to call it a night.
See ya.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck tomorrow. Let me know how it goes.
Thank you. I will.
So get involved, folks. That is the number one thing, is get involved. Whatever it takes to inspire you, whether it's watching any, and maybe I'll go into the description of this video and add all of the school board links. Might just add the links to the playlists because that'd be a lot easier. Go and watch the school board stuff and then get involved because it's incredibly important. Whether you are in a city of 2,000 people with a relatively small school district, or if you're in a metro area with a large school district, doesn't matter how big it is. What matters is, especially here in this republic, that you get involved. Once again, school districts are by and large the largest and most powerful form of taxation that you have directly involved in your life. There's no way around that. They increase your property taxes basically on a whim. Here in the state of Minnesota, there's a push to allow school districts over a certain number of, I think it's students and square footage within a school district for building sizes, that if they meet those requirements, they don't even have to do a referendum for an operating levy. And so that's why you see a lot of these school districts trying to build bigger and bigger schools, sometimes on the backs of having just done a building referendum. So, and they do bonding, which ultimately ends up coming out of your pocket, and it just on and on and on. So pay attention to your school districts, especially if you have kids in the school district. Pay attention to your school districts if you don't, because your tax dollars go to fund it, and you should have some say over what's getting taught in your school district. And ultimately start voting for people that want to abolish the Department of Education at the federal level and want to abolish the Department of Education on the state level. The best thing that could happen for our students is that teachers finally get paid according to their worth. And there are a lot of phenomenal teachers out there. But if they could go to a private school and get paid according to their performance, they would perform better. and your children would get educated better. That would be amazing. Public education in the United States is a relatively new beast in the grand scheme of things. It kind of came in on the progressive wave as it swept across the United States. It's time for normicons and paleocons and tradcons and centrists and whatnot to kind of take that back and to be in charge of their school districts again. Think back to the days of Little House on the Prairie, because everybody remembers that show where the school was operating, it was a one room schoolhouse. That wasn't a public school. That was a community-based school. The town got together and hired the teacher. Say what you want. Yeah, technology is what it is today, but there's no reason that we can't have that again. And parents paying attention and going and speaking out on these problems is one of the ways that we can do that. I want to make sure that I thank my friends at Ardent Sales for continuing to support the program, and all of my friends, especially Sarah and Larry and the Berries and others who are Subscribe Star supporters. Please go over to Subscribe Star, find me there, pick a level. Entry level is $3 a month. I just started another goal for fundraising. I made my first goal, so we're opening up the next one. And I am honestly working on even more exclusive content. So thanks for tuning in. Be thinking about Sarah tomorrow. If you're the praying type, pray for her so she has her strength going into this and she remains calm. And pray that other people in her school district would notice that what she's doing and join her in the fight to hold the school district accountable. These things are very important, and it helps at the local level for us to be involved. So, my friends, as always, until next time, fight for your freedoms. They are yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at